And we welcome you back for our third and final hour of America's Forum with Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth. And Miranda, a presidential task force on policing is calling for the use of more of these so-called body cameras by police.
Yeah, the task force established by President Obama after last year's police shootings. A report released yesterday, it lists dozens of recommendations believed to help build that trust between citizens and police officers.
And joining us now, Bernie Kerik, the former New York City police commissioner. Bernie, one thing coming from this report, the belief that body cameras will help connect police with the neighborhoods they serve. Are body cameras one of the answers?
Well, I think maybe from a trust perspective, and that's what they may be talking about. But I have to be honest, I think body cameras in the long run will help the police far better than they'll help the community. They'll substantiate, their actions. They'll refute, in many cases, false claims of brutality and assaults and some of the things that are the allegations that are made against cops. When I initially put the cameras in the cars, in the highway cars in New York City, the union and many of the cops were against it. But one of the first complaints against a highway patrolman in New York City was a false complaint, and the camera actually vindicated the officer. So I think the body cameras are going to be a good thing. I think the more resources we can get out to the cops for them to do their job and be protected, I think is better for them.
Bernie, there have been a host of headlines where officers have actually turned off their body cameras. And really, to our audience, what's the difference between that and, say, like a cell phone video?
Well, there is no difference. I've heard a couple of those things where they've turned the cameras off. They have the camera on for a specific reason, to capture the interaction between them and the community. And like I said, in many cases, it's going to benefit them. There should be no reason to turn them off. If they're doing their job, they're doing it correctly, they're doing it within the confines of the law and the department policies that they have to adhere to, I think they'll be fine.
One of the main catalysts for all this re-examination of policing in general is leaving the Department of Justice. That would be Attorney General Eric Holder. And in what amounted to an exit interview with Politico, the Attorney General was asked what one book a young person coming to Washington should read. Let's take a listen to his answer.
I would hope that, and I say this not to every African American of his age, but for every American, that you read the autobiography of Malcolm X.
The autobiography of Malcolm X. Bernie, would that be your pick? And what does it say about our outgoing Attorney General?
I'm not even sure, J.D. I think there's plenty of books you could read. I have no idea. You'd have to ask the Attorney General. I think there's plenty of other books you could read that would give you some better ideas and thoughts on this country, on Washington, D.C. I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking.
We've been talking a lot about body cameras. I'm just curious, and I want to get your insight. Are there other ways that we can build trust between officers and people in the community? How do you bridge that gap?
Honestly, Miranda, here's one of the things I think we lose sight of. The majority of times, the police in that community have pretty good interactions with the community. In the event of an incident, a confrontation, or something that stirs media attention, especially national media attention, it's usually outsiders that come into the community and stir all this unrest. Normally, 95% of the time, the cops have a pretty good relationship with the immediate community, but when something happens, you get these outsiders come in and all hell breaks loose. So I think they have to continue doing what they're doing.
Mindful that
town hall meetings and things like that.
And town hall meetings are helpful, to be sure. Bernie, about 45 seconds. I want to return to Eric Holder. When you look at his reign as Attorney General, his time as Attorney General, was he truly interested in law enforcement, or was he more of a political grievance monger?
You know what? I think I'm disappointed that he didn't push more for criminal justice reform, as he said he would. And I'm disappointed, not necessarily in him specifically, but in the whole Justice Department's, you know, the political end. The Justice Department and the Attorney General should be an independent body, and it just doesn't appear that to be the case. And it doesn't stop with him. This is in prior administrations as well. So.
Fair enough, Bernie. We'll bring you back after the break. America's Forum continues after this. And on Studio in Los Angeles, captured on video.
Yeah, the tape shows LAPD officers shooting the man to death after he reportedly grabbed an officer's gun. Still a lot of questions being raised about what actually transpired there.
And yet another situation where video is involved. Mindful of that, let's continue our conversation with former New York Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik. So here it is again, the video, but does the tape always tell the truth, Bernie?
Well, the tape doesn't always tell the full story. The tape is actually going to tell the truth. It's actually what's happening. Does it tell the full story? Not necessarily, and we've seen that in a number of different cases. What I would urge people to do is the same thing I said from the beginning of Ferguson and the chokehold event in Staten Island. Let the investigation take its course. Let due process take its course. Let the grand jury look at it. Let the investigators that's going to have real evidence, all the real material, including the tape and maybe other tapes, let them look at it. Let them make a decision what happened and whether charges are justified or not justified in the investigation.
Bernie, you mentioned Ferguson. The media was quick to draw conclusions in the immediate aftermath of the Ferguson shooting, some of which turned out to be just flat out wrong. Now it looks like the Justice Department is accusing the Ferguson Police Department of making racially biased traffic stops that lead to years of racial tensions. What do you make of this?
Well, I think, first of all, they have more information than I do or you do or anyone else does. They've been looking at this for a while now. Regardless of the traffic stop, information or intelligence they have, has nothing to do with the Michael Brown incident. In the Michael Brown case, it's already been before the grand jury, and there were no charges brought against the officer. I think what they're looking at in the Michael Brown event are two different things, and time will tell. We don't know. It's like I said just a second ago. There's evidence out there maybe to justify what they're looking at, and if there is, then they'll take it from there.
Bernie, the American criminal justice system and the political process, or perhaps the political perception of these cases that are obviously publicized, there's a reaction I want to play for you right now. It is the reaction shared by a 27-year-old African-American man when he was asked to respond to one word: Ferguson.
Debatable. I mean, don't put yourself in a position to get shot by the police. That's my opinion. I know that sounds really, really bad, but if you stay out of trouble, if you're not strong-arm robbing a convenience store, you probably won't put yourself in a position to get beaten up by the police or shot by the police.
That young man's take on it, Bernie, I'm interested in your reaction to his reaction.
Well, there's nothing he just said that's not true. And I've said this from the beginning. Both him, Michael Brown, and Garner, both of those men, I believe personally, I believe they'd be alive today had they not resisted arrest, which is basically what the young man just said. So at the end of the day, he's right.
Bernie, I want to put this in perspective. We're actually part of a news organization, so we bring up some of these stories, and it sounds like crime is really bad. But actually, a lot of reports are saying that crime is actually down significantly. Would you agree with that?
For the most part, yes. Especially in New York City. Last year, I think they had just over 350 homicides. I think people have bad memories when it comes to New York and what it was like in 1990 when they had 2,490 homicides. Violent crime is down 80–85% compared to 1994 when Rudy Giuliani took over New York City. I think sometimes we overlook that. The police have an enormous job to do. They have a dangerous job to do. They go out there every day and do that job, put their lives on the line, and as a result, crime is down, communities are safer, and most importantly in the New York City area, those African American communities that people complain that the police don't have relationships with, those communities have had the most substantial reductions in crime than any other communities in the nation.
Bernie, 30 seconds left for you to comment now on the fact that Loretta Lynch succeeds Eric Holder. Her nomination passed out of the Judiciary Committee. It's expected to pass the full Senate. What kind of Attorney General will she be?
I have to say, JD, from personal experience, I worked with Loretta Lynch back in the 90s, early 90s with the Cali cartel and in some of my drug days. I never had a problem with her. So hopefully she is the same today that she was then. And I think we'll be okay.
And on that encouraging note, we say thank you to Bernie Kerik, Skyping in this morning from the Garden State of New Jersey. Of course, some people have some concerns about Loretta Lynch because she said the president's amnesty thing can stay in place. At any rate, we will turn our eyes to the heavens. Astronaut Ron Garan will join us to talk about what it's like in space and what he learned.